You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Denisha Richard. Well, today we've got the top cop in the state of Kansas joining us on Inside Kansas Politics today. We've got joining us Attorney General Chris Kobach. Glad to have you here with us.
Great to be with you.
So you aren't new to Kansas politics. You've, of course, held other roles in Kansas government, but this is your first time acting as Attorney General. How's it been going so far?
It's been going really well. One thing the former Nebraska Attorney General told me before I took office, he said, this is the best job you will ever have. And so far, it's been like that. It's been really good.
And you know, I was actually going to ask you about any words of wisdom that you've gotten from anybody around you. Have you gotten any words of wisdom from the former Attorney General, Derek Schmidt?
You know, Derek and I kind of have talked on and off for, much of the last year because of the campaign cycle. So I can't single out one thing and say this is what Derek told me, but you know who else has been really helpful is former U.S. Attorney John Ashcroft, who was a personal mentor of mine. And so he's been constantly checking in on me. He was here for the inauguration. He gave me a call just yesterday. So I've been getting advice from some very good people from our neighboring states.
So you've been pretty busy recently. You've recently talked about your priorities that you want to get accomplished as Attorney General, including organized retail crime. You want to put an end to that. You also want to put an end to the fentanyl crisis. Now, with all of those priorities that you had at the beginning of your term, which was only a month or so ago, has anything changed for you? Are there any priorities that you've seen you say, I want to focus on that now?
I wouldn't say that anything has changed. One area where I decide I want to put even more focus is the problem of human trafficking, which I think is an invisible crime that many people don't think of. It's where people are put into forced servitude, and it's happening all across the country. Was recently at a conference that looked at the scope of that crime. So we're going to be looking at that one as well and devoting resources to that. But certainly in the criminal area, the top two things we're looking at are fentanyl. You said I'd like to put an end to it. I certainly would like to put an end to it, but it is such a huge thing all across this country.
Right.
So I don't imagine that I can single-handedly put an end to it, but I do believe we can increase the penalties severely for people who sell someone else drugs or some other item laced with fentanyl. And I think we can also, and we have a fentanyl task force with KBI and law enforcement throughout the state. I think we can increase communication and coordination with law enforcement agencies to stop some of the cartels and gangs that are smuggling it into Kansas. It's, as people know, it's coming across the Mexican border, and it is the most deadly drug we've ever seen in American history. It is the #1 cause of death for people 18 to 45.
And so, of course, you're only one man, so maybe not put an end to it, but of course you have a heavy hand in trying to stop it in the country and make it less of a problem, because there's only so much you can do, but you're going to do your best is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, and we are going to increase penalties, as I mentioned. KBI, Kansas Bureau of Investigation, has a lot of resources, and we're refocusing some of those resources so that we have more agents on the task of tracking and stopping fentanyl shipments into Kansas.
Okay, so former President Donald Trump, he was a good ally of yours. He has supported you back when you ran for governor a few years back, and you supported him when he ran, and also when he lost, you supported him with that. How's that relationship going right now? You know,
I spoke with President Trump a lot when he was in office. I have not had a lot of contact with him since he's left office. So I don't know. We'll see. You don't know? Okay, so do you think you'll support him if he officially announces his bid for the presidency? Well, he kind of really has, but when he gets out there and runs for president once again, do you think he'll have your support? I haven't chosen a candidate yet for 2024, so we'll see. I imagine I may have a discussion with former President Trump again and maybe some of the others, but no, I haven't made any decisions for 2024. All right, so coming back here to the state of Kansas, what has your relationship been recently with Governor Laura Kelly? Do you guys have a lot of sit-downs to chat about what you can both improve together? As it happens, we have a sit-down scheduled for later today. So yes, we are communicating, and yes, our staffs are communicating with each other. I'm hopeful that we can have a good working relationship. I'm sure there will be some issues where it's just a core issue of the Republicans versus Democrats, and we're not going to come to an agreement. But I'm guessing there'll be a lot of issues where we do come to an agreement. And I'm hopeful that Governor Kelly will, as she said in her ads during the campaign, meet us in the middle of the road. So I'm optimistic there. Let's talk about the abortion issue that's affecting Kansans.
Republicans. You have been very vocal about it, and recently you sent a letter to both Walgreens and to CVS to stop them from distributing the abortion pill mifepristone. And Walgreens, they replied, and you've got what you wanted so far. Are there any updates yet on CVS?
We haven't yet heard from CVS. I'm hopeful that they will follow the same course Walgreens did. With Walgreens, we simply said, look, there's a federal law against, very clear federal statute, against sending abortion pills, abortifacients, through the mail. And we said simply, look, the federal law also provides for what are called private rights of action through RICO suits, and it allows attorneys general to do that. We said, look, we're going to take this seriously. We're going to enforce the law. We also have a Kansas law that's on the books. It's currently the subject of litigation. But we intend to abide by the rule of law here in Kansas. So it was nothing new that I was adding. I was simply saying, we're going to enforce federal law. And Walgreens took us seriously and said, okay, well, we won't violate the law by sending abortion pills in the mail to Kansas or by dispensing it from the stores. And I think, this is an issue where I would hope people on both sides of the abortion debate would agree. Whether you're pro-life like I am or you believe that abortion should be widely available.
Why?
Because the pro-choice movement has always said we want abortions to be available and safe, legal and safe, has always been the mantra. Well, the reason why this particular type of abortion has been the subject of so much controversy is the step that the FDA is contemplating taking now with these companies would be excluding the doctor. Sure, the doctor prescribes it, but there's no doctor present when the woman takes the pill, and oftentimes these pills do cause complications. And so it's not as safe when you don't have a physician present. And that's, I think one of the biggest arguments for the abortion pill is going to exist no matter what, and in fact it is used at many of the abortion clinics, but it's important to have a doctor there in case something goes wrong. And then the other reason why it's important to have the doctor there is the doctor's a third person, and someone who's there with the woman when she takes this pill. You can imagine a situation where without a doctor being there, you might have an angry boyfriend who gets the pill from the pharmacy, coerces the woman into taking it against her will. Having a doctor there is a person who can be that third party and stop coercion as well. So I think, wherever you are in the abortion debate, I think the idea of having a physician present, I don't see the downside of having a doctor present.
Well, when you talk about having a doctor present and the complications that comes from it, the FDA has said that since the year 2000, when mifepristone was started to be used in the country, there has only been several dozen deaths from it. And so many doctors have deemed it pretty safe. And then when you talk about the access, so access for abortions and having it safe, I actually spoke with a representative from the Trust Women's Clinic in Wichita. They do provide the abortion pill in their office with the doctor present, the way you say it should be. But one of the concerns that they have about your letter to Walgreens and your initiative to stop the abortion pill from being sent into the state of Kansas is that it cuts off access to many Kansas women. Right now, they say 60% of women who get an abortion in their clinics are from the state of Texas. They're from the state of Texas, and they mention that anyone is going to come in and get an abortion. If they can't get it in the state that they live in, they'll come to a state where they can. Kansas is one. And so what they mentioned is that it's pushing other Kansas women out, and some women are relying on that abortion pill being available at a Walgreens or a CVS. And when that is cut off, they don't have as much access.
I would say they can't be relying on it now because it's not happening now. They can get it at the clinic, the abortion clinic. And that will remain the case. Basically, we're just simply saying, with my letter, we're saying the status, we don't want to move from the status quo to a position where these are just being sent directly to people and there's no doctor present. And with regard to the injuries, sure, it's true that it doesn't cause death in a large number of cases, but it does in a significant number of cases cause severe hemorrhaging and other complications short of death. And I think most people would say if something like that's going to happen, there ought to be a doctor present.
Yes, you say there ought to be a doctor present, but do you believe that this is the right way to go? Do you truly believe this is what is right for Kansas
I truly
women?
believe that the Kansas women have access to this medication at an abortion clinic.
At a clinic, correct.
And I think that's, if it is going to be available, that's where it should be available. It shouldn't be done at home where it's unsafe and potentially dangerous if a doctor's not there and something goes wrong.
And so, of course, as you said, and Walgreens has already said, they don't send it right now, and they don't intend to send it.
Right.
Same for CVS.
Well, CVS hasn't said anything yet.
Well, they're not right.
Not
so
currently,
if they do not send it in, and these women are losing access to abortion,
well,
what
they can
plans
still go,
do they have?
They can still go to the clinic. That will still be available to them.
They can go to the clinic, but as you know, there's not access to many clinics for abortions. So how will they get a safe abortion? Once they are unable to get access to a safe abortion, that's what the clinics worry about, that they will go and get unsafe abortions. Are you worried about unsafe abortions increasing?
Well, I am worried about unsafe abortions. That's why we sent the letter to Walgreens, because if there's no doctor present, then almost by definition it's unsafe. And remember, back to the 70s when this whole national debate really got started, the claim, the argument was that we don't want women seeking abortions without a doctor there. That we don't want women, the phrase was back alley abortions, but the concern is the same. We don't want people getting an abortion in a situation where the woman's health could be in danger without a doctor present. And I think we don't want to go to that situation, which would happen if these pills were just being sent to anyone who wanted one directly from the pharmacy.
Okay, so do you think this is the end of this? Because in Walgreens' letter, they kind of left it open-ended. They said, if this approach changes, we will be sure to notify you, end quote. Are you expecting things to change with Walgreens? Are you prepared?
I don't think so. This is one thing we've learned about the whole abortion issue over the last 50 years is that things are constantly moving. And of course, with the Supreme Court's decision in the Dobbs case that sent the abortion debate primarily to the state legislatures now, although there's still some role for Congress, and Congress does continue to deal with the issue. So I think there will continue to be changes, and I don't think the issue is completely going away anytime soon.
All right, well, we will continue to speak with Attorney General Chris Kobach. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics. We'll be right back.
The 27 News Storm Tracker is sponsored by Wilson Tire.
Home is where your hopes are. Your highest hopes for the people who live there, for the quality of their lives and happiness. You should have a medical home too, a place where the care is centered around your needs as a patient, with a complete team of providers working together to deliver all the care you need the most. That's Grace Med, the highest quality, most complete and affordable care for your whole health and the life you hope for. Because health restored is always hope renewed. Grace Med, the home of hope care for everyone.
There are some things in life that have to be put right.
If your neighbor's front gate is left open, you shut it.
Or if someone drops their wallet, you return it.
That's what a personal injury lawsuit is. Someone's been injured, justice is out of balance, and the other driver's insurance is supposed to make it right.
And it's up to the jury to make sure they do.
And that's why Devon James wins.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. Continuing our conversation with Attorney General Chris Kobach today. So now let's go ahead and talk about drop boxes. So drop boxes has been something you have been very vocal on. You just testified a few days back about ballot drop boxes in the legislature and committee. Your colleague, Secretary of State Scott Schwab, has also been very vocal about ballot drop boxes. One of the things he has said is that you didn't have enough facts about the state of Kansas, that a lot of your facts about the dangers of ballot drop boxes were out of state. Are there any facts or statistics that you have that shows Kansans that ballot drop boxes are not safe for the voting process?
Well, actually, I think my colleague, Secretary of State Schwab, maybe missed part of my testimony where I talked about in Wyandotte County, ballot harvesting was a very serious threat. Before we passed some of our laws in 2010, in the 2011 is when we passed the laws.
Okay.
In the 2008-2010 cycles, a lot of people in Wyandotte County reported to the election office there that someone else had requested their ballot, their advance ballot, their absentee ballot, without them ever knowing about it. And that's why we put into law, in the law that I drafted as Secretary of State in 2011, that your signature has to be checked. When you sign the request form, they have to make sure that it is indeed your signature requesting it. This all gets to the problem of ballot harvesting, which is when an organized group or individuals decide that they're going to obtain advance ballots, absentee ballots, from other voters, whether they pay them for them or whether they intercept them at the mailbox, and then fill them out and then cast those votes for people who never knew that someone was casting the vote for them. Anyway, that Wyandotte County example, which is very recent, was one, it appeared to be, we don't know how large the scheme was, but that appeared to be a ballot harvesting scheme. And so I did give that example. I also gave a 2018 case from North Carolina, the United States Congress. A redo election was held when a Republican candidate for Congress engaged in a ballot harvesting scheme. And both parties in Congress said, yeah, this stole the election, so they had a second election. So it has happened. It's happened in Kansas. It's happened in other states. And basically what the drop boxes do is they make it almost impossible to enforce our law against ballot harvesting. Kansas has a law that says you cannot deliver more than 10 ballots that are not your own. You can deliver your friends and families, but not more than 10. And that law is unenforceable as long as we have, at the last election, about 150 drop boxes all across the state where there's no monitoring, there's nobody there. You can walk in and dump in 1,000 ballots and nobody's going to stop you or know that it was you. And so I simply said to the legislature, hey, look, if we're going to have a law against ballot harvesting, we can't have unmonitored drop boxes because it makes it unenforceable. And the Senate agreed with me. Since that testimony, the Senate just recently passed the law that I was advocating, limiting drop boxes, I think by a vote of 22-16. So I guess they agreed with me and disagreed with Secretary Schwab.
Well, Secretary of State Schwab says that he wants to fight for the right of having the use of ballot drop boxes. So here's what he had to say. We're going to take a look at this. Are you ready to possibly go head to head with Kobach if you all are colleagues?
Well, you know, I'm the head election official.
Right.
If he were to win this race, he would be the Attorney General. He would have to offer a lawsuit against me, and that's a conflict because he's also my attorney. So there's really, he can say he's against them, but there's nothing he can do. And it's county property. As Republicans, we don't take away other people's property without cause.
All right, so you just heard from Secretary of State Scott Schwab, who mentioned that last year when he appeared on Inside Kansas Politics. When you heard those words that he basically said there's nothing you can do, what's your response on that?
Oh, my response is Scott should read up on Kansas law, because actually Kansas law says very clearly that the Attorney General has the authority to prosecute election crimes in Kansas. And Scott has said publicly that he, the Secretary of State, does not want to prosecute election crimes. So that means that if we're going to take our crime of ballot harvesting seriously, I ought to have a voice in how we make that crime enforceable. The other thing he said that really didn't make sense to me is he said that the only way I can disagree with him on this issue is by suing him. That's not at all. What happened in the legislature yesterday is how we can, you know, we're both Republicans, but we can disagree on this. I made my case to the legislature, and he made his, and the Senate agreed with me.
And when he mentioned that Republicans don't take away property without a cause, is that something that you agree with, or?
Again, that's something he said that didn't really make sense. The drop boxes are county property, but we're not taking the drop boxes from them. They could still have the physical boxes. It's not. It simply says it's a state statute that says counties may do this or may not do this. So the idea that somehow the drop boxes are being stolen, it doesn't even make sense.
So you're basically not worried about?
No.
Okay.
The legislators have, shown so far where they stand, and we'll see what the House thinks.
Okay, so we'll see what the House thinks when it goes forward. So let's talk about transgender sports. That's also something that you've been very vocal about. And several days back, there were bills that have been advanced in the legislature, including one that bans trans girls from participating in sports for girls. That's something that you have been heavily championing as Attorney General. I'm sure you want to see this bill become law, but if Kelly vetoes it, which is what many experts are thinking will happen, what will be your response on that?
Well, I hope she doesn't veto it, because she actually ran an ad during the 2022 campaign saying that she was not against, now she used the term men competing in girls' sports. I hope she doesn't veto it. Look, I'm the father of 5 daughters, and I have become a huge fan of girls' sports, and my girls are competing in various sports. And the idea that one of my girls could, spend hours, years competing in a sport and then go to the state championship, go to whatever championship and have that first place spot or whatever spot taken by a biological male is just so unfair. I mean, as a country, we have been building up women's sports for the past 50 years. And we have created this vibrant arena of competition. And the whole idea is it should be fair to have women's sports where girls can compete against girls, women against women. And the idea that we would make it unfair by bringing in biological males, which it is unfair. Anyone who saw what happened with Leah Thomas in collegiate swimming, where she just blew away all of the records in swimming in that area, in that stroke. And same thing's happening in weightlifting, same thing's happening in track. Let's keep girls' sports for girls, and let's make it. I mean, the bottom line is fairness. I don't think this is a Republican or Democrat issue. If you believe sports should be fair, and that you shouldn't have, 25-year-old men competing against 12-year-old boys, and you shouldn't have biological males competing against biological girls. It's just fairness. I mean, that's the reason why we separate sports into age groups. That's the reason why we separate sports into sex groups. Sports are supposed to be fair. We are a nation that loves sports. And I think if you polled every American, you'd find the overwhelming majority want sports competition to be fair. I don't want my girls to have to be competing against biological males. It takes not only the championship away from them, but it takes scholarship dollars away from them. It's just not fair.
You're watching Inside Kansas Politics. We'll be right back.
Mouth-watering, enticing, satisfying. Taco Villa. Since 1973, Taco Villa has been serving up their own style of delectable Mexican food. From the thing, to the nacho platter, to the low-carb salad, and everything in between. Taco Villa satisfies. Take it to the next level and smother anything in our famous signature chili con queso. Get your fix. Dine in, carry out, or call ahead with your order. Taco Villa on 21st next to the toy store.
There are many reasons to choose Renewal by Andersen replacement windows, and our exclusive Fibrex material is a significant one. Renewal by Andersen Fibrex windows look and feel like wood, but have the low maintenance features of vinyl.
Well, it doesn't rot, it doesn't peel. We spent over 20 years developing the Fibrex.
Fibrex is twice as strong as vinyl, while providing the stability and beauty of a wood window.
So if you're going to stay in your home for 20 years, there's no reason why you wouldn't go with our product. You will see how well it lasts, and it'll last beyond the 20 years.
For a limited time only, buy 5 windows, save $1,500. Buy 9 windows, save $3,000, or choose 2.99% financing.
Renewal by Andersen, the better way to a better window.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Denisha Richard. We're finishing off our conversation with Attorney General Chris Kobach. So you've also been very vocal on fighting against immigration in the nation. What are your thoughts? Illegal immigration in the nation, excuse me about that. What are your thoughts on the recent influx of migrants coming into the U.S.? And if you think it's a problem, do you think it could become an issue that we need to tackle here in the state of Kansas?
Well, it certainly is a problem. The Biden administration has done a couple of things. They did this in the early days of Biden taking office. They first of all imposed a 100-day moratorium on deportations, and it's gotten a lot worse than that since then. They've also ordered ICE officers and Border Patrol agents not to follow federal law. There are certain federal statutes that they are no longer allowed to follow. And when I was a private attorney, prior to becoming Attorney General, I represented some Texas sheriffs suing the Biden administration over that law. And the latest thing that's happened is the Biden administration has tried to open up asylum. Asylum, by law, is when you are persecuted by the government of your home country and you have a reasonable fear of persecution and you come to a safe country like the United States. What the Biden administration has done is basically said, everybody who wants to come in, you're welcome to apply for asylum, which is what's happening now, even though 95% plus of these applications for asylum will be denied. However, the Biden administration has not only let them into the country, has shipped them all over the interior, so the chances are very low that we're going to be able to find them and deport them once their asylum application is denied, as it inevitably will be. So they've created this massive gap in our system by opening up the doors to asylum, even though these people are not eligible for asylum. So I think it's a huge problem. Your question, will there be a role for the state? There already is to a certain extent. Kansas has joined with a number of other states in a lawsuit to basically ask the federal courts to make the Biden administration follow federal law. And that happens all the time. Attorneys general, really for the last 20 years, whenever a presidential administration has broken the law or violated the Constitution, it's usually become the role now of state attorneys general to do something about it. So we are involved in a couple of lawsuits on this immigration issue, the state of Kansas is. Just like during the Trump administration, some attorneys general from blue states sued the Trump administration. So the attorneys general play an important role of keeping any White House, whether it be a Republican or Democrat, keeping them honest and keeping them complying with the law. And anytime if there's a question, those attorneys general can force that question into federal court and we can get a definitive answer. And I think that's a good thing.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
You just heard from Attorney General Chris Kobach. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics. We'll be right back.
Top City Logistics, your local freight company. How can I help you?
We have an impossible freight mission, should you choose to accept it.
Nothing's impossible for Top City. We accept.
Top City Logistics, because your freight is our mission.
Hi, I'm Steve Matukowicz.
And I'm Diana Cox. Together with Washburn University, we're bringing you Everything Woman,
A 27 news series highlighting everyday women who do not get the recognition and attention they deserve. A special teacher, an encouraging coach, a work-from-home mom. Everyday women with their own unique stories.
If there's a special woman you'd like to nominate, go to KSNT.com and click on Everything Woman.
Everything Woman, sponsored by Sharp Honda, Topeka ER and Hospital, and Washburn University.
Shop, dine, relax. We have it all. Fairlawn Plaza, all together better.
Car accident? Devon James wins.
The real beauty of Kansas lies in the strength of its people. Hardworking, determined, resilient.
But sometimes, even the best of us can use a little help.
As attorneys, we have the privilege of being your advocate when you need help the most.
Because what matters to you matters to us. And that's why if you've been injured, Devon James wins.
Anywhere in the state, dial 8. Call 888-8888.
Top City Logistics, how can we help you get your ship together?
I have an oversized load that has to go out today. Can you get wheels under it ASAP?
With us, this type of ship is easy. Our fleet of experts are ready to roll. Top City Logistics, because your ship matters.
Well, that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas politics, then follow us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter at @InKansasPolitics, and we'll also post the full video on YouTube. Just search KSNT News and check ksnt.com/inside-kansas-politics for past episodes. Of course, if you have a story you want Kansas state legislators to hear, let us know. We'll see you right here, same time, same place next week.